This episode of the Local Hustlers podcast is brought to you by Flamingo Pools, your go-to maintenance and repair company in the East Valley. Stop wasting your valuable time trying to take care of your pool and let the professionals at Flamingo Pools take care of it for you. Visit azflamingopools.com for a free quote today.
You're listening to the Local Hustlers Podcast, East Valley Locals. Get connected with small businesses near you and dive deep into their stories, mindset, and motives. Entrepreneurs everywhere. Get ready to be inspired by business owners, entrepreneurs, and hustlers that you can relate to and learn from. And now, your hosts, Dallin Huso and Ridge Waldberg.
Alrighty, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Local Hustlers Podcast. Today, Ridge and I are here with Damian Curtis of Curtis Contracting. Damian, how's it going today?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. It's good to have you on the show today. Before we get into everything, all the juice, why don't you take a moment to tell us a bit about yourself and who you are kind of before Curtis Contracting came about?
Okay. So I've been, I grew up in Gilbert for most of my life. Moved there when I was about 10. Was in Safford before that. Went to Highland High School. And I always kind of been an entrepreneur. I always had an interest in business and always knew whatever I did, I wanted to work for myself. And so in high school, I had a carpet cleaning business. I started at 15 and did that until I was about 20, 21. And then served a mission for my church. And then from there, came home and kind of got into construction more. I was doing a little bit before that, through high school and stuff. I always had a fascination with construction and learned a lot as I was growing up. I always was playing with tools. And then, about 23 or so, I started working full-time, just doing oddball construction projects.
Yeah.
And it kept growing, word kept spreading, and here I am with a company now. So
Nice. All right, well, let's go back to high school. So you said you've always kind of been an entrepreneur. Did you have either a family member or a role model that kind of instilled that in you? Or how did
I don't know. I think it was just kind of something I was born with. Just something I knew that I didn't want to be an employee my whole life. I don't know where I picked that up.
Yeah.
But I feel like certain people are just kind of, they just think outside the box, they think differently, and they know that they wouldn't be happy just being an employee. They want to create something bigger, and that's how I always felt. I'm not sure how I got that entrepreneurial spirit at such a young age, but I just was always driven to get what I wanted. Even as a kid, I knew what I wanted, and I'd go work hard for it. I had some good role models to learn how to work.
For sure.
Not necessarily for business, but I had good role models that really taught me a good work ethic, and I just learned, if I want something, I gotta go out and work hard for it. And so
did the carpet company, did starting that kind of help you with everything else you've done with your construction company?
Yeah, I think it was the first official business I had, and I learned a lot from it. There's a lot of stuff that you can learn as you go, and it definitely helped. All the little things that I learned from that, helped me with this business now. As I got older, I started looking at where I wanted to go with a business, how big I wanted it to be, and I just realized that carpet cleaning probably wasn't the industry that would make that happen. It was, you could make a decent living at it, but I've always had big dreams of growing a huge business with people that run it for me, and I can leave for a week and still have it running when I come home. And
it's the dream.
Exactly. And I've always dreamed big about stuff, and I just looked at carpet cleaning and realized that it's possible. There are a few companies out there that have done that, but there's so much competition in that it probably wasn't going to get me where I wanted to be.
Yeah, your odds were better in some other industry.
Exactly. And so I wasn't exactly sure what industry I was going to go into, but I always had that fascination with construction growing up, and I just kind of started doing little oddball projects for friends and family, and it kind of grew from there. And as I got busy with that, I started realizing, you know what, this could be the business that'll get me where I want to be.
Yeah.
What about construction interests you?
You know, like I said, with the business spirit that I had, I think that's another thing that I was just kind of born with. I don't know how to describe it, but as a kid, I remember a real young kid, every time we'd be driving by a construction site, I would just be watching all the equipment and the workers. And it was just something from as early as I can remember, I just was always fascinated with construction. And I got into my dad's toolbox when I was about 2 years old and took a drill bit and twisted it into the drywall and drilled a hole in the wall. And
Nice.
I love tools. Exactly. You know, I was figuring it out at a young age.
Yeah, I think everyone's kind of born with just wanting to do something, and they are focused on an area in life. So
yeah, there's definitely I've noticed that too. There's certain passions people are just kind of born with, and I think construction is kind of that passion that I was born with, and it was kind of always destined to end up in it.
Yeah. So at what point did you go from a handyman just doing off-ball jobs to realizing that you had a business here, something that you could grow and expand?
Well, I would say it was probably, so I got home from my mission about 5 years ago, and that's when I just started picking up oddball jobs, a little bathroom remodel, whatever, just anything I could do to make some money.
Just the handyman work.
And I did that for a while, and I got to where I didn't have to really put the word out. People were just calling me, and I was just consistently busy getting into bigger and larger projects, doing some kitchens, doing some entire houses. And I've always been fortunate that whatever I've done, word of mouth has definitely spread, and I haven't really had to advertise in any way. And so it was probably, after about a year of that, realizing how consistent things were, and I was, had a few full house remodels and some kitchens and some bathrooms and things like that I started realizing, this could turn into a business. Yeah. And from there, I kind of hired a few part-time guys here and there to help on some stuff, and then it was probably about 3 years ago when I finally had all the experience I needed and was able to get my contractor's license and set up an official company. Yeah. At that point, I think that's when everything became official and it was a real company.
Yeah, that's sweet. So I have two questions. So for those that don't know, when they are trying to get their contractor's license and things like that, like you said, you needed experience, right? So how does somebody go about doing that if they want to get into the trade? Just a quick rundown.
So basically, for most trades, you need 4 years of experience.
Right.
And then, depending on what license you're going for, if you're going for a general, sometimes they want to make sure that you have 4 years of general contracting experience of working around new builds and remodels and all kinds of different jobs. And I know they've changed the way they license recently to where they're not quite as strict with So I started out with a different license, it was just for remodeling because I didn't have the new build experience, and I wanted to get into construction with an actual license, and so I got what I could qualify for. And so with that, I had to show a list of 10 different jobs, fill out a form for each one, proving that I done the work. The homeowner or somebody that knew that I did that work had to verify it. And they've changed that recently to where I don't think they require those job forms anymore. They just want one form with a list of all your experience and somebody to sign off saying, he's, whether it's a foreman you worked for or something like that. I think I went about it a little bit harder. I think it's a little bit easier to go work for somebody else, get that experience, because then you have a boss that can sign off for you. Yeah. I was working on my own, doing projects that I should have been licensed for, but I didn't have the license yet, and so then I have to find a way to find somebody that can sign off saying, he's got the experience, even though he wasn't licensed, And they don't really, once you're applying for a license, they don't really care because you're doing it right at that point. They're not going to go back and say, well, how did you do all this work without a license?
Right.
But, you know, it's a little bit more difficult to find someone that can sign off and verify that you've got the experience. So it's easier to go work for somebody else, but I'm kind of stubborn and didn't want to work for anybody else. And I was already busy working for myself, so why would I go get a job somewhere else? And so I just kind of did it the harder way, but it still worked out.
But it probably was harder, but more rewarding in the end.
Definitely.
Because you were able to learn more. Yeah.
And that's one thing I've seen some younger guys that get into contracting because they know the right people to sign off for them, and they maybe can walk through a job and schedule trades and be a general contractor, but if you give them a hammer, they don't know what to do with it. You know, and with me, I've literally done just about every trade myself. You know, plumbing, electrical, drywall, paint, roofing. I mean, I've done it all. So am I as good or as fast as a guy that does it every day? No, because I don't do every trade every day for years, but I know all the codes, how to do it up to code. I know a lot of the little tips and tricks and how to do it a little bit quicker, you know, and so I've learned a lot of that. And now as a general contractor, that helps me out because I know what to look for on jobs, and I know when somebody is doing something right, and I know when they're cutting corners, and I know how to effectively schedule the trades on a job because I've done it, and I know who should come in first to make the job run as smooth as possible. Some of these younger guys I've seen, they understand, you know, drywall comes before paint, some of the basic stuff, but, you know, there's a lot of smaller things that, you know, you run into a lot of little details that if you haven't done the work yourself, you don't realize how hard you're making it on some of your trades.
Right.
And because I've done all those trades, hands-on experience, I know how to effectively schedule a job and get all the trades in and not piss anybody off on the job, you know, and so I think that helps me be more effective as a contractor too.
That's cool. That's a really good point, because I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs, and I don't have anything against this, by the way, but they'll go and they'll start a landscaping company or start a construction company, and they know all the back end stuff as an entrepreneur, but they don't necessarily know the trade by heart, like someone who kind of did it on their own at first. And so all those tips and tricks that you know, especially like being able to empathize with your guys, knowing how hard something is at times, and knowing the tips and tricks, like you said, I think it could really benefit the company.
Definitely. You know, there's a lot of little things that you notice because you've done it that you might not pick up on if you don't have that experience. And it not only helps the job run smoother, but it also helps you give the customer a better product too. You know, I've always been big on quality, and I've always had an eye for detail, and that's one thing. You know, you've probably heard in business, there's two ways to be successful in business. Either you invent something that doesn't exist, or you make something better. And obviously I didn't invent contracting, but my goal coming into it was I want to be the best contractor out there. And I'm sure everybody's heard the horror stories of somebody they know who's hired a contractor, and they either did really crappy work, or they took the deposit, started the work, and then ran off and they never saw him again, or, you know, you name it. You've probably heard the stories. I've heard millions of stories. And I wanted to come in and be that contractor that somebody who had a bad experience could come in and use and have just a totally different experience, and just restore faith in people towards general contractors, because general contractors have such a bad rap sometimes. And I wanted to come in and just be the best contractor out there and take care of the customer the best I could. And some of the things that I do, I pay attention to a lot of the details that a lot of guys don't, like stuff inside the walls that you'll never see. You know, any decent contractor can make a job look good in the end. But a really good contractor knows all those little details that aren't ever seen that will make a job even better. You know, and so those are some of the things that I pay attention to. You know, for example, in the framing stages, after we've done electrical and plumbing and all that, right before insulation, I'll go through with a can of foam and I'll seal up around windows, and I'll seal up any light coming through that I see coming through the exterior walls, any plumbing penetrations going out, any cracks in the plywood that I see, any daylight coming through. I'll go seal all that up before insulation. And is it necessary to, you know, no, the house is still going to stand. Nobody's going to know the difference. Most houses don't ever get that done, but that's just one little detail that I do so that I know at the end of the day I'm giving the customer the best product that I can.
I think so. I kind of want to go back a little bit and tie it in almost. So you talked about like word of mouth and advertising. You don't do advertising really, but it's a lot of word of mouth. I think that kind of goes together. Like how you said you get the job done, it kind of ties in with the word of mouth. I think a lot of construction is word of mouth.
Yeah, it is. A lot of service businesses, period, are word of mouth. That's the best way of advertising. And I think the reason why I've never had to advertise and I've always had a steady stream of work coming in is because of the quality work that I do. If you treat the customer right, you give them a good quality job, they're going to refer you out. And so I think I've just been fortunate to never have to advertise, and part of it is just because of my work ethic and my determination to make sure that it's done right. And I don't want a job to be done just enough to pass code. I want that job to be good enough that 10 years down the road they still remember who did that job. Right. And they look at their kitchen and say, man, that contractor, he did a good job. Still standing 10 years later. And so as far as advertising goes, most service businesses, that's the best format of advertising is word of mouth. If you do good work, the word's going to spread. As I get busier and grow my business, I think we're going to have to start doing advertising, because you get to a certain point where word of mouth can only carry you so far. Right. And like I said, I dream big, and I've got big goals for this company, and so we're starting to look at some different avenues of how can we keep growing this to get to be as big as I want it, and at that point I think we're going to have to start paying for some advertising. And I have a sales guy that works for me now that's going out trying to drum up business. And so I'm starting to take some of those steps now, because we're kind of reaching that point where I can handle the work that's coming in, but as we grow and I hire more guys, the pipeline's not going to be able to feed the amount of work we want to do.
Right, for sure. That's cool. So with what you were saying about kind of standing out from everyone else just because there's so many service businesses, what would your advice be to someone who's starting a business that's not inventing a product, how they can stand out from everyone else?
I would say, first of all, take care of the customer. I mean, do everything you can to bend over backwards to make the customer happy. Every once in a while, you're going to run into that rare customer that you just can never make happy. It's going to happen. I've had them. Everybody's had them in business. But for the most part, you may have a customer that's annoyed about something, and when they bring the concern up, do everything you can to make sure it's right, even if you have to lose money on the job. I've had jobs where I broke even or lost money because I did so many things just to make sure they were happy at the end, and I could walk away knowing that they were happy and they would refer me out.
Right.
I've had jobs that haven't gone perfect. Nothing is perfect, and jobs have gone south. Things have happened. Things weren't done right, whatever. And the customer gets annoyed about it, and I go in and I just eat the cost of it. I take care of it, fix it, make sure it's done right. And even though the work wasn't done right to begin with whoever did it, the fact that I jumped in, ate the cost of it, and just did it right and made sure the customer was happy, in the end they were really happy. And I think those kind of things, they're going to be more willing to spread your name out because of that than if the job just goes smooth. If the job goes smooth, people will spread your name here and there if they hear about it. But if you bend over backwards for them and make sure they're happy, the job doesn't have to be perfect every time. Some mistakes can be made, but as long as you fix those mistakes and you eat the cost and you don't go back to the homeowner and say, yeah, sorry we screwed up, but it's going to cost this much more to fix. That's just going to piss them off more. You got to be willing to walk away from some of those jobs losing money, knowing that you made the customer happy, because you don't know who they know and who they're going to refer.
For sure.
So I would say that's probably my advice for that. Always treat everybody like they've got 1 million referrals for you. Because you never know who they know. And some of my best clients that I've gotten have come from people I never would have expected, like a little bathroom remodel maybe, and it's not a huge job, and we're knocking it out, and they're happy with it, and then all of a sudden, they're handing over a huge referral that you never would have expected. So you never know where they're going to come from. So make sure you always take care of the customer and bend over backwards for them. I think
Nice.
that's a big thing.
I like it. So game plan, mess up on purpose, then go back and fix it.
There you go.
So.
Hey, that might be a strategy there.
Come up with a different business. Have them mess up.
There you go.
Be the superhero.
Yeah.
So what's your experience been with employees so far?
So I've got 9 or 10 guys now, I think.
Okay.
In this kind of economy, it's difficult finding good, solid employees. You know, I've got a group of decent guys now, but some of them, I wish they worked a little faster, or they knew a little more, or things like that. It's just, with this economy, everybody's so busy. It's tough finding good help, people that you can rely on that'll just go in and bust their butt and get the job done quickly. Employees can be a headache at times. I mean, when you've got that many running around, you're trying to manage. There's a lot. They're always calling you about stupid problems. It's like, just use your brain. I mean, sometimes you just pull your hair out at the end of the day. But ultimately, they're kind of a necessary evil. You got to have employees to grow business, and I think if you treat your employees right, try to take care of them, try to give them a place that they are happy to come to work, it's going to make a difference. They may not be the best employee out there, but it's going to make a difference. They're going to bug you less about little problems, and they're going to go out and work a little bit harder because of that, because they're happy to come to work.
Yeah. When did you go from just doing it yourself or picking up kind of odd guys every now and then to having a set amount of...
So probably about 3 years ago, when I officially set up my company, I was still working on my own, taking one job on at a time, and then I would hire some part-time guys every now and then. And then for about 8 months of that year, I ended up hiring one guy that worked for me pretty much full-time. But we were still just taking on one job at a time. He and I were both working on the job. And then that next year, no, probably wasn't 3 years ago. It was probably 2 years ago that happened. And then last year in May, I ended up partnering with a guy who I did an addition for. Speaking of referrals, you never know where they're going to come from. This guy had come from, I had done an addition on a house, full on high-end custom remodel on this whole house, and posted some pictures on Facebook, and a friend of mine said, hey, my brother's looking to do an addition on his house. And so I went and met with him, ended up doing a 1,000 square foot addition on his house, and about halfway through that project, he said, hey, I like you, I like the work you're doing, would you ever be open to a partnership? I have a big network of people, I could help you grow this business, and he owns a lot of other businesses, so he's got a lot of business experience, and experience in growing businesses big. And I said, well, I don't know, I've never really thought about a partnership. And so we started talking it over, and last May we ended up partnering, and that's when he brought on a big client of ours that they own 9,000 rental houses in Phoenix, and they're buying 20 to 50 houses a month, and we're remodeling a lot of those, and they're making them rental houses. And so he had a connection with them that was able to get us into a really big client, and that's when we started hiring a lot of guys, because we needed the guys to support that. As a regular general contractor, you don't always need a ton of employees because you can sub a lot of it out.
Right.
But there's some jobs, like with this big client of ours, where the margins are tight enough that you could never sub it out. You need to have your own in-house guys. And so that's when we started hiring a lot of guys. So ever since last May, we just have been hiring as many as we can find that are qualified to do the work. And so we've been growing ever since then.
Nice. So you're more in-house now rather than subbing out jobs?
We're both. Yeah. That's just one of our customers. They're a big customer of ours. We do a lot of work with them, but all my employees pretty much work on their stuff, and then all my outside jobs, I pretty much just sub out almost all of it. Every once in a while I'll have an employee jump on something and do some demo or install some faucets or something, but for the most part, all the remodels and new builds and things are subbed out.
Okay. What are the pros and cons of subbing out jobs rather than having a full-time employee?
If you're doing big enough jobs, new builds or big remodels, and there's enough in the budget to be able to sub stuff out, you're going to pay more to a subcontractor than you do to an employee that's on payroll. Right. And so, that's going to cost you more. So you got to have a job that's big enough that can afford to be subbed out. Okay. If you're talking about a tiny little bathroom, it's hard to sub the entire thing out. Sometimes you need your own employees because it's just, you can't possibly charge enough to get every trade in there. Every trade is going to have a certain minimum to come out and do some work. And so, and especially with the way the economy is right now, everybody's so busy. Why would a plumber want to come do a tiny little bathroom remodel when they can plumb an entire new house? And so, you're going to pay more with subcontractors, but generally they're going to be kind of a specialist in that trade, and they're going to come in and just knock the job out real quick. Obviously you have some that aren't that great, but once you get a good trade base and you know who you're working with, you get a good relationship with them, you know who's going to come in and do good work. They're going to come in and just get the job done quick. They're going to clean up after themselves. You don't have to worry about it. You just say, hey, this job's ready for you. Here's the blueprints. Go do this. With an employee, you got to be a little more on top of them, managing them, and you have a little bit more control over the schedule, so you can throw an employee here and there on different jobs and get stuff moving quicker, because sometimes you don't have control of your trades schedule. Sometimes they're busy on other jobs. Right. But the employee can be cheaper. You have a little more control over it, but they may not have the experience that your subcontractor does. And so it's kind of a balance of, it's hard to find a guy that can work for you that can do everything. Yeah. It's very rare to find that. And so one of your employees might be good at drywall, so he can do some drywall patches for you, because your drywall sub is so busy on houses, he's not going to come do a patch, Right. And so there's times where I'll throw an employee on that kind of stuff. But for the most part, on bigger jobs, I like to just sub it out, because the subcontractors have more experience to just come in and get it done quick. Yeah. You're going to pay them more than what you pay an employee, but it takes a while to be able to build up a whole bunch of employees in one field. That if you wanted to be a framer, for example, you'd have to hire all these framers that have experience and grow that. And it's just, in order to do the larger projects, it just doesn't make sense to have employees unless you're in a position where you can hire and have a plumbing division and a framing division, and maybe that's something we get to down the road. But for now, the subcontractor model is much better on the larger projects, and employees tend to work out, at least for parts of the project, on some of your smaller projects.
Cool. That's really interesting. I guess I'd like to dive more into this partnership that you kind of mentioned. How did it make sense for you to decide you wanted to cut your revenue in half and split up the business decisions?
Yeah, so that was something I went back and forth on for a while, because up until that point I was working on my own. I had full control of the business. Mm-hmm.
And it was going well, right?
We were small, but we were growing.
Was there things that you felt like you needed to fix a little bit, though?
Yeah, when you're a one-man show, essentially, and you're the accountant, and you're the secretary, and you're the office manager, and you're the contractor, and when you're doing all of that, stuff gets neglected. Yeah. When you're busy out on the job, all the office work gets neglected. The books get behind, and so I definitely needed to be more organized on the business side of it. Mm-hmm. But when you're just out on the job 60, 70, 80 hours a week because you're so busy, all that stuff gets neglected, when you're kind of a one-man show. And so I went back and forth on, is it worth giving up 50% of my business? I built this from scratch. Do I want to give up 50% of the profit? But what I finally came to the conclusion was my 100% equity right now is going to be, or my 50% equity in the future is going to be worth a lot more than my 100% equity is right now. Sometimes if you get a good partner, they can help you grow a lot faster than you can grow on your own.
Yeah.
And especially with his network.
Yeah.
You know, so the year before I took him on as a partner, we did about $250,000 in gross revenue, which is small for a contracting company, but I was just taking on one job at a time.
Yeah.
Last year we did close to $1 million.
Wow.
That's
and so
jump.
I mean we grew fast. By taking on this partnership, and it was because of his connections. He was able to get us into some big customers, and so I think once I realized that a good partnership, if you are on the same page, can really help you grow a lot faster. I thought, let's do this because it's going to help me get that big business that I want. Even though I got to give up 50% of the company, it's that 50% is going to be worth a lot more.
Yeah, and it already is.
It already is. Yeah. Within a year, it's already worth double what my 100% equity was before.
Awesome. So, what's his role and what's your role?
So he doesn't really have any contracting experience, but he has business experience. He owns 9 other businesses, and so one thing that he does is he does all the books. He almost every day he's on top of the books, updating them, and so all the books are done to a T. I don't ever have to worry about the book work.
That's nice.
Exactly. Yeah, he deals with the payroll. He does a lot of the office stuff, and so it's nice for me because I can go out on the job and manage these projects, and I don't have to ever think about the office stuff.
Yeah, focus on what you're good at.
Exactly. And then he's there for just advice and coaching on how to grow a business. I'm getting into a big business with a lot of employees now to where this is uncharted territory for me.
Yeah.
I've never done this. I've always wanted to do this, but I don't have the experience, and he does. And so he's there to kind of help coach me along, give me advice, and then kick me in the butt when I need a kick in the butt, So it just kind of a good partnership kind of helps you both help motivate each other and help keep each other in line, and hold each other accountable. That was what I was looking for. Cool. And so he's kind of there to make sure that I'm on top of stuff and that we're closing jobs out and that we're making money on the business side. He's going over numbers with me to make sure that we're actually making money. And if we're not, then I got to go out in the field and figure out why aren't we making money. And so that's kind of his role in the business. He doesn't have any contracting experience, so he relies on me to grow the business on the contracting side, and he kind of helps behind the scenes with all the business side of it.
That's super cool. So would you say like the biggest benefit that he's brought into the business is kind of his network to be able to get you those bigger jobs that you talked about?
Yeah, I think his network and his business experience,
Okay, yeah.
Both of those are a huge benefit because he owns 9 other businesses, so he's been around the block with businesses, and he's grown a lot of them to multi-million-dollar businesses. Nice. So it's to have a guy like that that's got that much experience, and then when you have that many businesses, you obviously you're going to have a big network. You're going to know a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think both of those kind of come hand in hand.
For sure.
So those were the 2 big benefits that I saw to bringing him on.
Yeah. Do you recommend partnerships then to anyone that's starting a business?
Yes and no. I mean, I think it's got to be the right partnership.
Yeah.
A bad partnership can go south fast.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go out just hunting for a partner. I think if you know what you want to do, you start pursuing that and going after it, and the right partnership will come along if it's meant to be. If you're looking, if you go out just hunting for a partner and you're gonna wait till you find a partner to start a business, you may never start a business. And so I think go out and do what you want to do. Start your business. That's the biggest thing in business and success in general is showing up. I think there's a quote, 80% of success is just showing up. You got to just go out and do it.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. Just go out and start the business. And if a partner comes along and you both seem like a good fit, I wouldn't necessarily turn it away. Explore that option, talk it over, make sure you both understand where you want the business to go, what your visions are of the future. And if everything seems to line up, then maybe it's a good partnership. If things don't seem to line up, I would walk away and keep going and do it on your own. Yeah. I think partnerships can be good, but you got to make sure they're the right partnership.
Mm-hmm. Do you spend more time cleaning your pool than you spend swimming in it? Then call Flamingo Pools today. Flamingo Pools is your go-to swimming pool maintenance and repair company in the East Valley. Whether it's weekly maintenance, repairs, green to cleans, or one-time cleanings, Flamingo Pools will take care of you. Honest, reliable, and innovative. Just a few of the many good things Flamingo Pools customers have to say about them. Ask them about their mineral treatment, which will keep your chemical levels down, allowing you to have a healthier bathing experience. At Flamingo Pools, they know that your pool was made to be enjoyed, so let them handle the rest. Check them out at azflamingopools.com or give them a call at 480-422-6013. Mention this podcast and you'll get your first month of maintenance completely free. That's azflamingopools.com and 480-422-6013.
So do you ever go out and get your hands dirty on a job, or are you mostly just overseeing and managing everything?
Yeah, every now and then. I could never just sit in the office all day every day. I'm not that kind of person. Right. I always wanted to be in some kind of business where I didn't have to sit in the office, and I have more office time than I want. And it's not a ton, but it's more than I ever wanted. Yeah. I didn't want to sit at a desk, but I'm bidding plans and things like that. And, but I still get out, and I think one thing that's unique to me and what customers notice and appreciate is the fact that I have the experience. If a trade is behind on something and I can't get them out to a job, and it's just something small that I got to do that's holding the whole project up, I can just go out and do it. Yeah. Like I had a project, we were doing a new 1,000 square foot studio in a backyard in Scottsdale, and I was trying to do the underground plumbing, and my plumbers were behind, and finally they said, okay, we have 2 days, we can get out there and do this, but I can't get my excavation contractor to do it. And I said, all right, I'll dig it out. I've got experience on heavy equipment. So I rented an excavator. I dug the trenches while they laid pipe. Nice. We got it done. And then we ran into an issue with the inspector calling for a different size pipe. I couldn't get my plumbers out in time to get the stuff done on the driveway because my concrete guys were pouring concrete in a couple days, pouring the driveway back that we had to tear out. And so I just went and bought the pipe at the plumbing supplier. I ran it under the driveway. I backfilled everything, got it done. And I was down in the trench, and the homeowner came out, and he's like, I really like you. You're the kind of guy that you're not afraid to jump down in the trench and get it done. And I said, you know what? You got to do what you got to do to make the job move forward. And so I'm too busy running the business to do it all day, every day. Right. But I do like getting out and doing a little bit here and there, especially if I get to run a piece of equipment. That's just playing in a giant sandbox for me. Yeah. With my Tonka trucks. And so, but I enjoy doing it every now and then, but I can't do it every day, otherwise I would neglect so much more of the business. So, but I do get out and get my hands dirty every now and then.
So you already talked about how you kind of you've always had a love and been drawn towards construction. Now you're kind of too busy towards that. Are you passionate about like what you're doing in terms of growing the business, or do you wish you were kind of more doing work and had more time for actually playing in the sandbox?
It depends on what trade I'm doing. There's some trades I don't care to do, and if I have to go out and do it that day, I would much rather be sitting in the office bidding a big job. But if you're going to put me on an excavator, I would do that all day, every day, and just forget about the business some days. Forget all the employees and all those headaches. I just want to go run this piece of equipment. But at the end of the day, I think my goals and dreams for the future are big enough that that's what drives me every day to keep this business going, and I do enjoy it. I don't want to be the guy that's out getting my hands dirty all day, every day. I knew that from the start, that I'm not afraid to work hard. I'll put in long days. I've had some long weeks and long months, just grinding to grow this business. And I'm not afraid of the hard work, but I knew that I didn't want to do it my whole life. I didn't want to be that guy that was just the hard construction worker for 40 years of his life, and he finally retires and can't even move because his body's shot. I didn't want to be that. I wanted to use my brain to be smart and grow a business to where eventually I would have the freedom to go out and work on a job for a few hours if I wanted to get my hands dirty just for fun, but I didn't have to. And so I think, I do enjoy what I'm doing and growing this business, and I'm excited seeing the growth And so, and with my big goals for the future, it kind of keeps driving me for that.
That's awesome. What would you say your goals are for the future then?
Well, ultimately, I want a business that kind of runs itself, that I can oversee, but I can also leave for a week or two and have the business run itself. That's what I've always dreamed of having, and I'm getting closer and closer to that. I went to Hawaii for a week about a week ago, and that was the first time I've been able to take a week off from my business in a long time.
Wow. Awesome.
And so I'm not quite at the point where I can do that all the time, but I'm starting to see the business is getting there, where I've got some people in place that can manage stuff for me while I'm gone.
Yeah.
And it's kind of exciting to see that. And so ultimately what I want is to be able to have that time freedom to enjoy life and do some of the things I want to do and not be tied to a job all day, every day, you know. And so ultimately that's what I'm trying to do, is grow a business that can give me that kind of lifestyle and give me more time to explore other passions of mine. You know, real estate's another passion of mine, as we've talked about. You know, I want to get more into real estate investing, and I want a business that can help fund that and give me the time freedom to go out and pursue that more.
Yeah.
So I think those are some of my big goals.
Nice.
That's cool.
Did construction kind of lead you to real estate just because you're dealing with houses, or did some other path kind of draw you towards that?
You know, I think my interest in real estate started when I was a teenager, and I was seeing people flip houses, especially after the 2008 crash. People were buying houses up and flipping them and making money, and I already had an interest in construction, and I thought I could do that, you know. And so I think that's where my real estate interest started. Originally, I didn't want to buy any rental property. I thought, I don't want to deal with landlords or with tenants and be a landlord and fixing toilets, and I don't want to do that kind of stuff. But as I got older, I realized that you can hire property managers for that. Yeah. You don't have to be fixing the toilet at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And as I got older and realized that, I thought, you know what, maybe rental properties are where it's at. So I started thinking about some single-family rentals, and then I learned about multifamily and apartments. And as I learned more about that, I realized, you know what, that is a way that you can create a lot of passive income. Yeah. And so my brother-in-law and I ended up partnering on a real estate business a couple of years ago and bought some fourplexes and kind of got started in that game a couple of years back, and we're actively trying to grow that side of the business too. And so I think it just kind of evolved from originally wanting to flip houses to, hey, you know what, I could create passive income if I buy some apartments. So
that's cool.
And I'm sure the construction helps with it, because you get some properties that are kind of hurting and needing some attention and things like that.
Yeah,
so.
Our partnership is valuable to getting in on some of these apartment deals because of my construction experience. Right. You know, most of these deals, you're buying older 70s and 80s buildings that haven't been updated in a long time. Yeah. And the idea is you go in and update a lot of the units and make the property worth more, and people pay more for rent. Mm-hmm. Then in a few years, you turn around and sell it. It's kind of like a giant flip. You're essentially flipping a house, but on a 3 to 5 year schedule instead of quick. You know, you're remodeling all the units, getting the value up, and turning around and selling it in a few years. And so with my construction experience, it definitely is a benefit to be able to manage some of those rehabs.
That's nice. Okay, so if financial freedom is the goal and you had to only pick one, would you go with starting a business and growing that, or doing commercial real estate?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think ultimately real estate can give you that passive income more than a business can. But for me, I see the benefit in both, because as I grow my contracting business, it's going to give me the cash and the net worth to qualify for some of these big loans on these commercial properties. Right. And so that's another thing that drives me in the contracting business to grow that, is if I make that big, then I'm going to be able to qualify for a lot of the real estate loans on the real estate side. And so to me, I see a benefit in having both of them, but if I had to pick one, I don't know. That's a tough one, especially because of my passion for construction.
Right.
I see a benefit in both, but I think ultimately real estate is what can give me the time freedom more than a business.
Yeah.
It takes more time and it's harder to get a business to give you that time freedom. Real estate can do it a little bit quicker, I guess.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Sweet. So you talked a little bit at the beginning kind of about role models and mentors. Have you had some pretty big role models or mentors along the way? And
yeah, I have. So my parents are divorced, and so I wasn't around my dad a lot growing up. And so I think I kind of just gravitated towards some father figures, and I had a couple really good mentors growing up that were kind of like father figures to me. And one of them, the one that I'd kind of mentioned that instilled a good work ethic in me, he owned a masonry company building block walls and brick and stone, and worked hard, had a pretty good business going. And when I was 14, 15 years old, he'd take me to work in the summertime, and I'd be building scaffolding and mixing mortar and stacking blocks. And this guy could work circles around a 20-year-old on a job site. He's in his 60s now, and he probably still could. I mean, he just goes and never quits. And so he was a real good role model for me that helped me to get a good work ethic. And then I had another really good friend of mine that when I got into the carpet cleaning business, he had done it for 35 years and was kind of there helping coach me along, answering questions, let me work with his crews, to learn stuff, and just was there the whole time while I had my business, helping me with that business, and we became really good friends. And he was another really good role model. I learned a lot of business stuff from him, learned a lot about carpet cleaning, and then just became really good friends, and I'm just like part of the family over there now. So
that's awesome.
I've had a couple really good role models in my life.
Yeah, that's good. I think it's important to have some good role models
Definitely.
that make an impact on your life.
Cool. Well, with that, before we kind of close up here, we've got a quick game that we're going to play with you.
Okay.
So what's
I'm not good at being put on the spot, so let's see how this goes.
So you'll have a minute to answer as many questions as you can. So there's 20 questions total. See how many we can get through. There are questions about you. Some are business, some aren't.
Okay.
And yeah, we'll just see what you can get through in the minute. So
okay.
We'll pull up the timer here. You ready for this?
Let's do it.
All right. We will go in. Sorry. All right. 3, 2, 1. What's the best business book you've ever read?
I would say Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I think that really jump-started our real estate adventures. And it's a good business book all around. Just kind of changes your mindset a lot.
Best podcast?
Ooh. Man, that's a tough one. I've listened to a lot of good real estate podcasts. But I hear there's this Local Hustlers podcast. That's pretty good.
There you go.
Automatically win the game.
Sweet.
Celebrity crush.
I've never really been big on celebrities. If I had to pick one, I might say Harrison Ford because he's a pilot and I'm a pilot and I can relate to that, I guess. So, but I've never really been a huge celebrity kind of guy, I guess.
Okay. Fruits or vegetables?
Fruits.
Michael Jordan or LeBron James?
You know what? I'm not big on sports either. I don't know that I have a preference on that.
Oh shoot!
We'll say Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go with that.
All right. Well, good thought out answers, but unfortunately, it only kept you to 4 answers. So.
But I think with some of those answers, he wins.
Yeah. You automatically win the game with the podcast answer there. You mentioned, I forgot, so you have a passion for flying too, right?
I do.
So when did that kind of come into the picture?
When I was a teenager, I don't know when it started. That was another one of those that just it was a passion that kind of grew on me that just, now I just feel like it's in my blood. And, don't know how it started, but I know when I was probably about 10 or 11, I went on a helicopter ride with my dad.
Yeah.
And it was the coolest thing ever. Flew up and landed on a mountain, and I thought, man, this is sweet.
Yeah.
And then ever since then, I just thought it'd be cool to get my pilot's license. And so that became a dream of mine. And about 4 years ago, I think, I finally was able to get it done and got my pilot's license. And now I fly for fun when I can.
That's awesome. That's probably another big motivation for you to make, money and
Definitely
grow your business, because flying isn't cheap. So.
No, it's not. And like I said, I have big dreams. One of my dreams is to own a jet
Let's
that
go.
I can fly myself around the world.
That's
I want to
awesome.
be able to just fly anywhere I want on my own jet.
Yeah.
And so, and jets definitely aren't cheap. So I got to work hard to get that.
There you go.
Do you feel like you're able to find time for flying with your business and real estate?
Not as much as I'd like to, but I can make the time. It's just, it's gotten to where I'm so busy that sometimes it gets put on the back burner, but
Yeah.
I enjoy just having that freedom to be able to go. If I need to go to Safford to check on my rentals, I can just jump on the plane and go fly there. It's an hour flight instead of a 3-hour drive, and so I like those kind of trips. But I get out and fly every now and then, not as much as I'd like to, but down the road, I'd like to have my own plane that I can just go fly when I want and have the time freedom to be able to do it too. So
Nice. Sweet. Well, before we close up here, why don't you kind of plug yourself, let people know where they can find you if they're needing any contracting jobs.
Okay. I guess probably the best would be to send me an email. My email is Damian, Damian, at CurtisContractingLLC.com. That'd probably be the best to reach me. Send me an email and we'll come out and take a look.
Sweet.
Perfect.
Check it out.
Yeah. Sweet.
Or just get a hold of Dallin or I, and we'll put you in touch.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, thanks again, man, for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We've had a real good time. Good luck with all your goals and
Thank you.
dreams. I think we should do a follow-up episode on the jet one day.
Yeah,
When I come in the picture. So
Sounds
we'll
good.
see how we got.
We'll do the interview on the jet
Yeah.
while
There you
we're
go.
flying to some other country.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks again, and we'll catch y'all next time.
Yeah, we'll see ya.
Sounds good.